What the fuck is that? What the fuck do you think you're doing? You playing VR shit now? What is this? You thought this was real? You thought this was reality? That's crazy. Not in my Christian Resonite. You bitch. Fucking DynVars. How did they work? Not super complicated, but they do take a little bit of setup for things to be able to actually work. And then they just work. And then you never have to touch them again. It's great. Also, if you can't tell, I'm not here. There's a fucking green screen. Resonite VR. I suck at explaining things, so the best thing that I could possibly do for you is to just do it and explain it as I go. So what we need to do is to make a box. This is going to be for your dev tool, which looks like this. What you'll do is open your context menu and you will hit create new. Boom. Create new. Bam. Too easy. We go to 3D model and then we go to box and boom, you got a big box right there. Put it over hither for now. So now we got this box, right? We're gonna open up the box. We are going to actually create a child. This is the create child button. And bam, we got box child. Shit out of baby. Am I doing good? Am I doing okay? After we get this box child, we're just gonna rename it to space, I suppose. Oh, if I could spell. There we go. We got this box and we named it space. So space is going to be the dynamic variable space that we need. DynVars, if I haven't explained this because I'm an idiot, they require a space in order for things to be able to talk to each other. So everything exists under this space, right? This entire area, which we're just going to call example for example. Anything that then is under example will require a slash to understand that I am under this hierarchy. It's not necessarily required to have example all the time, but I do. So you'll do what I do. Too easy. Great. We move on. So we go to the slot of space, come down here to attach component, and I'm gonna friggin' search it up because I'm lazy. So we're looking for dynamic variable space, which is right down here. And as you can see, it is under data and dynamic. So we click that and we put it on our space, and then we will name this to example. If you think about it, the way that this kind of works is like directories. Like if you look in your computer, you click on C drive. Under C drive, it goes, you know, C:/ whatever. It's kind of like this, sort of, except everything just exists under that one space. But everything will carry this example tag underneath. Just trust me, it makes things less confusing and it just works, man. I don't know. Dynamic variables are for people that want to build shit, never open it again, and never think about it. It's great. It's great. You never have to think about it ever again. It's fucking awesome. Underneath the space, I want to put I don't know, DVs. So we'll just call DVs. It stands for DynVars or dynamic variables, whatever you want to call them. I want a reference to the box itself. I know the box is right here, and then I could just friggin', you know, oh, why don't you just reference it? We're not hard referencing. That's why it's dynamic. This not bad idea, it's just not necessary, because then at that point we can use it anywhere and we could do it externally. It builds for external use cases as well, where it's not talking inside of itself, and we'll go over that another time. So we go here to attach component. Slots are references, they're not values. The difference between references and values is that values carry a value, like bools, 0, 1, true, false, integers, which are just full numbers, floats, doubles, color, most things that carry like data, like numbers and stuff like that, where references are just a reference to a thing. They're an object. Like you. They don't actually have any sort of value like you. I'm kidding. Please. Namaste. Please don't kill me. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Moving on. What we do, we come here, we look for dynamic reference variable, because slot is a reference. I type in dynamic reference variable, as you can see right here under data and dynamic. You may get one of these that pops up and you're like, what the fuck is there's a T common arguments? This is basically just saying it's looking for what type. So don't be afraid if like this shows nothing up, right? You just have to look for it. So we're gonna look for slot. So we will go capital S, S-L-O-T, and that will bring up slot. It is case sensitive, so that's why I brought that up. We have this dynamic reference variable of type slot. Too easy. So we give it a name, and I'm gonna call this example because it's under the space of example, and I'm just gonna call it box. Too easy. Now, what do? Well, I grab the reference to the box itself, and I put it here. And now it exists as a permanent reference here. So example/box with this reference, which is the box. So now we can use it for dynamic variable input. An input is quite literally just taking that and like sourcing it, but you're doing it dynamically. So it's kind of like just taking the reference to the thing itself and using this as a reference, just like this. But because it just shares the name, it will always just get that reference so long as it shares the same name. All right, so now that we got our we can go into our Protoflux on the Protoflux side instead of the component side. And now we can look for dynamic input. I'm just going to look here and I'm going to type in input and we'll probably find it right here. Dynamic variable object input. Again, it's an object. Like you. We click into it and then we just look for capital SLOT. Sorry if I could fucking spell. And boom, there it is. Just pops up. Dynamic variable object input of type slot. You're a slot, dirty slot. So now, dynamic variable input. This just requires a variable name, which we have already created. We called it example box. So we're going to plug in example box into our little thing here. Boom, example box. If I pull this out, oh no, it's null. It does nothing. That's because since it is looking for this specific space, we need to pack it underneath that space or else it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to grab the box that I want it to be saved under, delete this real quick. And this is just for, this is just as an example. Up here, we're going to create another child to the box. We are going to go to space and then we are going to hit create child. We can rename it to whatever we want, but in our case, we're just going to rename this to simply flux. Now we just pack it underneath the flux. And now it should just there we go. It should just work. Boom. Super simple, right? So we've already done space. We've already created a reference. And now we have created a use case for that reference using dynamic variable inputs. What about practicality? What can we actually do with this? Well, let's write some shit. A dynamic think of going to McDonald's, right? You're at McDonald's, you're like, I want a cheeseburger. So you click the cheeseburger button. And then what does it do? Oh, this man wants cheeseburger, right? That's essentially what we're doing. It's the same thing. You're like, I want cheeseburger, I want fries, I want this, I want that, right? Like a fucking child. But now that child's got flux. So write dynamic user. We can take, so what we can do is take this, right? What is that? Slot input. We just made a slot input dynamically. We can plug that in right there. Boom. Too easy, right? Too easy. Now it needs a path and a value. So we could just use local user, which is under users in your Protoflux browser. You think you're better than me, don't you? Fuck you. So boom, we got the local user. We already have our dynamic variable input. We're basically halfway there. Now we need a path. We need to tell this thing where to go. The thing with dynamic writes is that it needs a place to go. Dynamic variable inputs are able to use any sort of data, while dynamic writes need to have a space for it to go to. We haven't created a path yet, which we need to do on our box. So on the box, we could go back to DVs and then we look down here and we can see dynamic reference variable slot. We need this same exact dynamic reference variable, except we need it of type user instead. So we will go back and just bring up the user. Again, looking it up, we can look it up under data and dynamic, and we will be looking for dynamic reference variable, capital USER, and it is right there. Too easy. Now we've slapped it on there. We just need to give it the exact same variable name as what we have on the code here. We're just going to type in example/user, and I'm just going to copy this value to the path that I want it to go to. Boom, example user, reference null. Why? Because once I hit call, this will not write to it. But real quick, before I do anything, like I was getting the reference to the box when I should have been doing it for the space. Anyway, I am an idiot. I went ahead and I moved the dynamic variable space to the box. So yeah, just put this space on the root object that you want it to be on. I was an idiot and I put it on space, not box. So now if I write to this, it's going to pulse it straight to this example user path. So if we look here on our thing and we go to dynamic variables and we take a look at this example user, it wrote the user there. So whoever clicks this call button now, because local user, right, it will then write their user information straight to this path. Too easy. And bam, that's pretty much like very simple, like dynamic input versus writes and stuff like that. What if we wanted to do something a little more practical? How would we not have to call this button every single time? That's pretty much up to you. But in our example, we can just click the box. I click the box and then it will be pressed, and then you can send that pulse, you know, to the right if you wanted to, and it would just be whoever clicked it. So too easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a button event right here. You can find button events under interaction. We take the button events and we put a button toggle on the box. It'll probably be touch toggle, because touch toggles are just easier. So on this box, we are going to come here to the attached component and just type in button. If you don't have a search function, it'll just be under transform and interaction that you can see. Transform, interaction, touch button. Oh shit, I did it twice. Fuck. What the button event is looking for is right here, the button component. So we want to come here to this component, the one that we just made, touch button. We look here on the button component field and we just drop it in there. Now, when I click this button, it sends a pulse. Wow. I'm going to put this over here. Now, every time I click the button, which is the box, it will come over here and it will trigger. No. One thing that's kind of nice about dynamic variables as well is the fact that it's also kind of has like its own built-in debug feature. If you look here on this dynamic variable right, you can see that there's an object not found and a success. So when it can't find it, but the pulse is coming through, then you know that it is here that is the issue. It is not anything before it. And on success, you can just continue that workflow if it actually does right, which is great. Failed is a very, very rare use case. I have only experienced failed a couple times and I wasn't sure why, but yeah, they're extremely useful for debugging as well. So it has its own built-in functionality for that. It is great. Why does that look like a penis? So yeah, I think next time, probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how you can use this externally, meaning that it can talk to things that are outside of its own space. And it's really simple. But yeah, you guys can practice this and you can use it for any use case as well. Once something is dynamically written, you can also use it as a dynamic input as well. As long as anything shares a name, it can be referenced as any type of dynamic thing. So because we have created a dynamic write for that user, and all you would have to do is just get another dynamic input, do example/users, and then pop it in there and it just worked. But yeah, I hope you guys like this. I mean, I'm probably going to be making a lot more on dynamic variable stuff and kind of playing with those. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.